Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be doing a celiac update. So May is Celiac Awareness Month, so I choose to always share an update on my daughter. If you're new to my channel, she has celiac disease. She was diagnosed at 3.5 and she's currently 7.5. So we've been gluten-free for medical reasons for 4 years with her. And I like to share on my channel our journey with celiac disease in hopes that it's helpful for people who are recently diagnosed or families, but also as an advocate and to educate about celiac disease. I think one of the biggest things we've encountered is just the lack of knowledge people have with celiac disease. So if this channel can help in any way, I really hope it does. So I choose to update in May because it is Celiac Awareness Month, but also she was diagnosed in May. May 27th is when she was diagnosed. So I always make a specific video to kind of update how she is doing, and she's doing very well. Like I said, we've been at this for 4 years, and I really like to kind of share our journey through this because it can be very difficult when you're first diagnosed or a family member is first diagnosed, especially when they're younger children. Like I said, she was 3.5 when she was diagnosed, and I really didn't find a lot of resources out there when dealing with much younger children. So I'm hoping this is helpful, but like I said, she's doing well. She now sees her pediatric GI specialist twice a year, and she gets blood work done once a year. And the blood work is usually just to check her antibodies to see, where her levels are. Luckily, she's not dealing with any vitamin deficiency or anything like that. That is something when she was first diagnosed, she was dealing with some deficiencies, and she was also not growing when she was diagnosed. But she's weight is good, height is good, physically she's doing really well. Doctor's happy where she's at. She also, of course, sees her regular pediatrician, or we've switched her actually to a family practice doctor. She sees that doctor once a year. Again, everything is going really well. In this past year, she was diagnosed with ADHD, and there is some correlation with celiac disease. There's a higher rate of ADHD and celiac patients. Whether or not they're, completely connected, I'm not sure, and I don't think medical research can really verify that, but there is a higher instance with those two groups of people. So I was not shocked, and it was something I was definitely keeping an eye on, but luckily the diet we follow already is beneficial to a child with ADHD. So there's not much change along that. One thing that was mentioned at her last appointment is that she had her upper GI, so they scope her and look at her intestines and everything. That's the gold standard for diagnosing with celiac. Obviously, the first step is blood test to look at antibodies. And if you're high enough, then they do the upper GI. She had that done at 3.5, and she was fully sedated for the procedure. Her GI would like her to do it at 8.5 again. So in about a year, just to kind of reevaluate, because they do have the imagery they took when they scoped her at 3.5. And they want to see, how things are looking now, especially since it's been 4 years. And I'd say that procedure does make me a bit nervous, probably more nervous than when she was 3.5, because at 3.5, I don't think she was really aware of the entire situation. And granted, it was, right at the start of COVID, so medical procedures and everything was crazy. But I feel like at a 7.5 or at 8.5 when she has it, she's so much more aware of medical things now that she's going to be a lot more anxious. But I, of course, will update as that goes on. But that's kind of the medical plan going forward, keep doing what we're doing. She hasn't really had many instances of being gluten or anything like that. And one of the struggles I would say we've had is it's definitely difficult for her to tell if she's been gluten. Obviously, I think if she ate a large quantity of gluten, and she'd get severely ill, but people can have different reactions from being gluten. And because she was so young when she was diagnosed, I feel like stomach pain is different for her. That was kind of normal for her as a child, unbeknownst to her that not everybody has constant stomach pain. So when she eats something and she gets a stomach ache, she's not really quite sure if it was gluten or if, it was just something else she ate or she was running around too much. She has trouble discerning that. And that's difficult for me because, of course, when she tells me her stomach hurts, I start mentally going through the entire list of everything she ate that day to see, okay, was it a potential gluten exposure or was it something else because she's a kid? So that has been difficult, and I'm hoping that with age, she'll be able to discern that better, and kind of how her body reacts to certain things. But right now, that's kind of a struggle that I don't know necessarily if it's a cross-contamination gluten issue or if it's just a stomach ache, because that's completely possible, for a 7-year-old to also just have an icky tummy. So I'm hoping that she will gauge that as she gets older. But one thing we did do really successfully this past year is we ventured out to trying more restaurants, and that's gone really well. Luckily, we've had really positive experiences in the different restaurants we've tried, and I think the app Find Me Gluten Free was essential in finding restaurant options, because we don't live in a large area. We don't live by any major cities, so it's harder to find options. There's definitely no options within an hour of me that take proper precautions. Although a restaurant opened in town recently that is a higher end restaurant, so it's like lobster and steak and linen tablecloths and all that, and I've spoken with them. They claim that they can take her issues seriously, and cross-contamination, all that. We haven't tried it though, because it's just super expensive, which is kind of annoying that a lot of the places we find that, at least by me, that offer gluten-free options and know what cross-contamination is, are the higher end restaurants. And one of the struggles with her is, I'm not sure if this is related to celiac disease or kind of her experience with food early on, but she's become quite a picky eater. And I don't know if that's, some of the neurodivergent part of her brain working. She's very weird with texture, but she doesn't like to try new food. And, even we were in the city and we went to a place that was completely gluten-free, got her a grilled cheese, and she didn't like it because it was a different type of cheese than she's used to. So it's annoying that we have these higher end restaurants that offer, lobster and steak and all these fancy meals. My kid just wants some chicken nuggets and a hot dog. So it's hard. I think will be just a struggle with the area we live in, that there's just not a lot of options. And she'll try it, but she's very iffy with new food. And again, I don't know if that's just some psychological, that she associates new food with pain from her experience being so little and having celiac disease. Or I try my best really not to make food a fearful thing in any way. We're very, diligent, and you can make all the right choices and still get gluten, unfortunately. So there's always a risk there, but the fear and the risk should never stop you from living your life. And I'm hoping I'm conveying that to my 7-year-old. When we're at restaurants, I talk to the staff. I'm showing her how to advocate for herself, because one day it'll be her, not me, doing the speaking, and she'll have to figure out how to make sure that the waitstaff in the kitchen understand the severity of her condition, especially when the vast majority of people don't understand what celiac disease is. So I'm hoping it's not a fear-centered thing, but she definitely is more picky when it comes to food. So even when we do find some options, she's not always enjoying those options. But it was nice to have the opportunity to go out to eat with family members, and we haven't really done that in a long time. And again, it definitely hits the pocketbook when we do, but it's only occasionally. So it is nice to find those options and venture out. And I would tell someone who is newly diagnosed that, baby steps. We definitely really tried to get it. First, we had to get the house under control when we went gluten-free. We switched out our pots and pans, our cooking utensils, things like that. We got a handle on the food and ingredients and what to look for. And then we ventured out into restaurants and really figuring out what I needed to know and what I needed to convey to the waitstaff in order for my daughter to be safe. So again, it's baby steps. So wherever you are on this journey, know that it does get easier. That is something I would definitely tell people when they're newly diagnosed, or if they have a family member that's diagnosed, that it does get easier. Again, we're 4 years in and things are going really well. One of the things I've mentioned in the past update, is that she was dealing with skin infections. So she would get these abscesses, and it would turn out they would start as a little bump, and then within a couple days they'd be really big. They would be infected, and they tested it multiple times, and it was just staph, the everyday staph that is on your skin, and for some reason her body just doesn't fight it off like it should. And we've seen multiple doctors about it. She's seen multiple pediatricians. She's seen, that's why we ended up switching her to a family practice doctor, just because after 3 pediatricians not really taking it seriously, I needed to find someone that would listen to the issues, because it was happening pretty frequently, at least once a month, and it was painful. It was uncomfortable. It was interfering with things like gymnastics, depending on where the bumps would form. And, I had doctors telling me it was completely normal. I had doctors telling me, just put her in bleach. And I wanted to know what the cause was, and, more preventative than, what do we do afterwards. So we went and saw an MD. The MD's like, well, this isn't normal, but I'm not sure what it is. So he referred us to a dermatologist. And I don't know why it takes ridiculously long time to get into a dermatologist, but it took months. But when we finally got into the dermatologist, she had a plan for us. She's like, yes, this is not normal. I see you've seen multiple doctors about this. Let's figure it out. So she did do a couple steps. One of the things, she had everyone in the family do an antibiotic with our nose for 2 weeks straight, twice a day. She thought maybe there was an overgrowth of staph going around, which I think kind of makes sense, because of the 5 family members in my house, 3 of us have had staph infections, so that is possible. So we did that. She also had her switch exclusively to showering, no more baths, and of course bathe as soon as she's sweaty or after gymnastics, all those things to kind of help with that. And she changed the shampoo, or she changed the body soap and made a recommendation, and she changed the lotion she uses, so she makes sure she's not getting dry skin or inflamed or anything like that. And again, celiac is an autoimmune condition, so it could be her body not fighting this off, but I don't think they're directly related, that if you have celiac disease, you're more likely to have, abscesses. But luckily, since we started that protocol and did all those things, she hasn't had any issues, which is amazing. So one of the things I would like to say, that even after you're diagnosed, you will continually still be advocating for yourself medically, or your loved one that you are caring for, that it's not just a diagnosis and it's taken seriously. I've met many medical professionals that have never treated someone with celiac disease. The pediatrician we had prior didn't ever have any patients in the area. I think there's only one other adolescent in our entire town that has celiac disease. So finding medical staff that know what they're talking about, and if they don't, willing to research and reach out to medical staff that will. So luckily we were able to get that taken care of, and she hasn't had any issues since that. So that is how our past year has gone. And again, it's gone really well. We addressed some medical issues she had. We ventured off into restaurants. She's becoming more of an advocate for herself. I see situations where, she's playing with kids and someone will offer her something and she can explain to that person she can't have it because of her celiac disease and she can't have gluten. So it's gone really well. And I'm hoping this journey continues to go well, and I will, of course, update as we go on year from year. If you have any specific questions about celiac disease, please leave them in the comments below. I'm by far no expert. But after having a family member deal with it for 4 years, I do feel like I have a lot of knowledge that I can share. And if you're looking for something, maybe I can point you in the right directions. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If not, thank you for watching.